Welcome to some remote learning tips, and I'm so glad you guys are here today. I put together a few ideas to, I think, help you with your learning, especially remote. So we're going to go ahead and do that. All right. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the tips. And if you are whether you're using Schoology or whether you're using Google Classroom, you're in the right place, because I'm going to go over a couple things. And then at the end, I'll open it up for more questions if you have any questions that you want to ask. All right. So first things first, tip number one, let's get going. By the way, my name is Dodie Ainsley. I work at BT Bosse's, and I am at this point working in UE, so I work with your teachers a lot. So let's get started here. Tip number one is get into a routine of checking your digital to-do list. Okay, and so how do you do that? How do you check your digital to-do list? If you're in Schoology, let me go right and jump into Schoology. If your teachers use Schoology, what you will do to check your to-do list is when you first log in, you'll see over here reminders. You will also be able to go into your courses, and let me go into my sample course. And so from here, you'll also see upcoming. So I know I have something due from here, and I can click right into it. So that is Schoology. That's how you want to check for Schoology. If you are Google Classroom, right, and you want to make sure that you get into the routine of checking your to-do list, there are several ways of doing it. Google Classroom, you can go into your classroom, and let me go to the classes here. So when you go into Google Classroom for the first time and you're in this screen here, you will see that you have a to-do list right here. So I can go right into that to-do list. And the beautiful thing about Google Classroom is I can then filter it to just specific classes, right, that are needed. So I would just go into this classroom and say, okay, here's what is due. And I can go ahead and see what's missing. And I can also see what's done. Okay, so that is an easy way to get to your to-do list, just by going into it from your classes. You can also, from this screen over in the left-hand side, you can also go down to your to-do list there too, and it'll show you your to-do list. You can also in your classroom, so let me go into the one classroom here, Mac Playground. You can also see what's coming up in your Google Classroom by going here, and it'll show what's coming up. So I can view all, and it takes me right to that exact screen I just showed you. So that is a really nice way to do it. And then the final way to check your to-do list in your classes is if you go to classwork. And when you go to classwork, you actually have a Google Calendar here for your classes. And so the beautiful thing about this is that you can actually go ahead and click on here. And you can go ahead and click on your calendar, and you'll actually see all of the assignments that are due on a calendar. And you can actually click on the week and the month and see at a glance everything that you need to do for all of your classes. So that is a really nice feature in Google Classroom, right? And I just went to classwork and went to Google Calendar. So that's where I got that, okay? So that's the tip number one, really great tip. Get into that routine of checking your digital to-do list, whether you're in, no matter which one you're in, right? All right, let's go on to the next one. So tip number two is setting notifications. So how do you set notifications so you know something's been posted and that you need to work on it, right? In Schoology, it's very simple. So in Schoology, setting your notifications, by the way, appear up here on this bell. So this will show you all the notifications that have come in. You can go to your profile, go to your settings in Schoology. And by the way, I am recording this, so this will be available if you want to review it again. And you can go to notifications here, and this is really how you're going to set on. What is it that I want to be notified of? All right, really kind of important to set those notifications, all right, so that you can get notified either up here, or one of the other parts is you can download the Schoology app and you can set notifications on the Schoology app as well. So you can get it right on your phone, which is pretty cool. So that's setting notifications for Schoology. For, oops, sorry about that. For Google Classroom, it's very simple to set notifications as well. So let me go to Google Classroom. I'm going to go to my stream. I'm going to go to these 3 lines up here. Some people call them the hamburger. And in these 3 lines here, when you click on here, you'll actually go all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to go to settings. And when I go to settings, from here, I will see my email notifications. So from here, I can check and make sure that I set all my notifications of what I want to get notified of. And don't forget, there's a little arrow at the bottom. And if you click on here, you can actually set them by class. So you might say, geez, I want to know what's going on in this class, but I don't need to know what's going on in this other classes or whatever. You can set these, turn them on or off, and then you'll get notifications. Now, this will be a notification through email, okay? And that's how you set notifications in Google Classroom. Now, again, I want to just remind you that if you download the Google Classroom app on your phone, you can set notifications for that as well. And you can get notifications right through your phone, which is kind of cool. So that's tip number 2, set notifications. So very important. All right, tip number 3 is check your email daily, your school email daily. And so a lot of people say, how do I do that? Well, very simple. On the Chromebook, you go to My Apps at the bottom. And when you click on My Apps at the bottom, your My Apps will come up. And on here, you will see, yours will say Union Endicott Office 365 Mail, and you'll click right on there and you'll open your mail. Some of your teachers might communicate via email, but also remember notifications for Schoology and Google Classroom will also come in your email, right? So it's really important that you check that email daily, all right? Get in the habit of checking that email. It's a really good thing. Okay, tip number 4, we're just buzzing right through here. Submitting assignments, tips and tricks, right? So how do we make sure that our assignments get into our work, gets in and gets handed in? Well, this is how we do it. Let's go to Schoology first, okay? So when you go to Schoology and we go to our classes, let me go to my sample class here in Schoology. Right? When I go and see, oh, look, I got this thing, it's due. I'm going to click on there. And this is actually a Google Drive assignment. So some tips and tricks. We've got our assignment. Here's where the details will be on what to do. Here's where my document's going to be. So when I click on here, I know I have a document assigned. Oh, it's a Google Docs. All right, so here I am. I need to complete this assignment. So I'm going to actually go in and I would complete it here. When I'm done, I need to make sure I submit the assignment in order to get credit for it. So don't forget to submit the assignment. Okay, here's a tip and trick for you, and that is if you don't see a document when you click on My Document, make sure you just click over here. Can't see your document? Click here. What that means is that probably your Schoology account is not attached to your Google account. And so when you click here, it'll just ask you to log in to your Google account and it will work. All right, so that is Schoology. You just want to go ahead and submit. This is a Google Drive assignment. If it were a Kami assignment and you were at the assignment here, it would actually say open in Kami. And you would just go ahead and click open with Kami and you would be right there. All right. Submitting assignments, Google Classroom. These are some tips and tricks here. And that is that when you go to Google Classroom, and here I am in my Google Classroom, classes, Go into this one because I'm a student in this one. When I go to my classwork, when I click on an assignment, you'll actually see when you click on it, this in this case is a question, and it's just a poll question. I can go ahead and I can view the question here. If I were to go to this one, for instance, and click on it, I would view the assignment. And then in this screen, I know actually that this is going to be a Kami assignment because my work is always on the right-hand side for Google Classroom. I click on my work here. I never click on Turn In until I click on the work. I have to do the work. And in this case, I'm reading the directions. It's saying watch the video and then open your work. This is a Kami assignment. So it says open with Kami. You always open with Kami if it is a PDF. If it's giving you the option open with Kami, always open in Kami, okay? And so I'm going to open this in Kami. I know that a lot of teachers are using Kami, so this is a good example for you. It's taking a lot of it here. I know Kami was having some issues recently. Let me just do a refresh and see if it comes up for me. If not, we'll go to another assignment, but typically it opens right up. There's usually no problems. There it goes. Yay, Kami. All right, so here it is. And here are my my jobs here. So I can go ahead. In this case, if I needed to mark it up, I would click on markup and maybe I would highlight different parts of it. In Kami, the turn in button is always up here. So I'm going to go ahead and when I'm done and I finished it, I can turn it in. I want to make sure all the changes are saved. If not, go ahead, save now. Never hurts. And then turn in, and then it will automatically turn in so that when you go back to your current events, it'll actually say turned in. So let me do that and show you. So say I did my work, I turned it in, it's saving to Google Drive, saving, checking file. It's going to pop me back into this assignment here. Notice now it'll say, do I want to turn in? Yes, I do, because I finished it, remember, and it will say unsubmit, which means it tells me I've submitted it. So that's awesome. I'm done. I've checked it. I'm done. All right. So that is one way. That's an actual assignment that was a Kami assignment. In Google Classroom, the key here is this. When you click on an assignment, oops, there we go. We want to always view the assignment, and then we always want to click on your work to the right. Whatever is on the right, that's what you're going to open, and that's what you're going to make sure that you've turned in, right? We never turn in until it's done, right? And we've opened it up and we've done it. I also want to point out in Google Classroom this add or create. If your teacher has asked you to complete something and your teacher has asked you to take a picture of it and add it to an assignment, this is when you do that. Or maybe you've created something else and you want to add it. This is where you click on add or create and you can pull it in from your Google Drive or your computer, depending on what you're in. All right. It could be, by the way, if your teacher asks you to take a picture of something and submit it and do an ad, I would just download the Google Classroom app. I think that would be what I would do. And I would just take the picture from my phone and from the app, just load it in from there. That would be the easiest way to do it, I think, for sure. So those are a couple things, couple of tips and tricks for submitting assignments. Very important, again, that if you don't have the apps for Schoology and or Google Classroom, and you have the ability to have one with the phone, why not? I mean, it might help you be more productive. Okay. All right. Tip number 5 is really about Zoom. All right. So there's a couple tips that I wanted to make sure I pointed out, and this presentation is going to be available. So you'll get the link for this splitting your screen. Splitting screen is so important because if I'm on a Zoom call and say my my teacher is showing me something, sharing the screen, I can go ahead and I can actually split the screen by doing on the Chromebook Alt bracket left, and that would split it to the left hand side so that here's my the screen share, right? And then maybe I want to then also follow along in Google Classroom. So I'm going to click and drag this right out. And from here, I'm going to press down the Alt key, bracket right, and the bracket key is right next to the P key, right and left. And then it locks it in place so I can watch the Zoom and also follow along in my Google Classroom when the teacher's telling me what to do or how to some directions or something. Once I've split that screen, I can make this bigger if I want to, or maybe I want to make that smaller and I'm just clicking and dragging with the arrows. That's all I'm doing. All right, to make it bigger, I've got it side by side. So that's kind of cool. And so remember, it's very simple to do. It's just you've got your screen, you're pressing down the Alt key, ALT on the bottom, and the bracket next to the P key, the bracket's right or left, and it locks it in place. By the way, you can also grab the handle of a window like this, and you could also slide it until you get that shade and then drop it and it will lock it in place. So if you're on another device, that would work too. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add this tab back in here so you can see the whole screen. So splitting the screen is super important and super, it really is very productive and it'll make you very productive for sure. Audio and video settings in Zoom. So I'm in let me open up my Zoom window here. I'm on a Chromebook. Your audio, your mute, right? So you've got your up arrow and you can pick the mic that is being used if you're asked to unmute. By the way, unmuting, you can also do Alt-A to unmute yourself. So if you like shortcuts, that's a really great Chromebook shortcut, is pressing the Alt and the letter A, and it unmutes and mutes if you have the ability to do that in your call. Okay. Your video has the same thing, whereas I can shut my video off or turn it on. And I can go up to that up arrow and I can decide which camera to use, right? Or I can go into video settings and do some changes there as well. Okay, so you don't probably have all of the things on here that I do because I'm hosting this meeting. But the other thing I like to do when I'm on a meeting is I like to, once I open it up, I click chat and I click participants. And that way you, when you're on the call, can get into chat if you need to, and do that. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the chat. So I'd like you to go ahead, if you can, click on the chat button and the participants, or just the chat is fine. And go ahead and add into chat. First of all, let me know, do you use Schoology or Google Classroom mostly, and how's how it's going. So go ahead and add that into the chat for me. That would be super great. All right. So we clicked on the chat button and we have our chat open and we can click right in there and we can go ahead and type in there. You use both. Awesome. It's going well. Super. That's awesome to know. Very good. All right. Both Schoology and Google Classroom. All right, super. All right. It is really hard to keep up with your assignments, right? Because they're coming in from all different directions. So I'm really glad to hear that. That's great. All right. The other thing, and I'm sharing my screen right now, so you can't see this. Of the shortcut. I absolutely do. I can absolutely get that to you. All right. I will make sure that I post, actually I'll send it to you, but I'll make sure that you get I'm going to write that down. The shortcuts are kind of cool on the Chromebook, and there's a couple ways of getting to the shortcuts. So we'll definitely send that to you for sure. Some people like the shortcuts and they do work really well. So cool. The other thing I can't show you because I am sharing my screen, but when I'm not sharing my screen, remember up at the top, you'll actually see a display. So you can actually do a gallery view or not. And a gallery view is nice because it will show everybody that's in there when the screen is not being shared. So, so that's kind of cool too. All right. Did I go through everything? Oh, and also, if you are not, if the teacher is not, or the host is not sharing with you, you can actually click on one of those gallery view pictures and pin it. So why would that be important? If the teacher is not sharing their screen, but they're doing a demonstration, right? Maybe it's a science class and they're doing a demo with their doc cam. You can actually click on the picture of the person and pin it. And that way, that's kind of cool because then you're going to see them big, full size. So not in that little tiny, little tiny grid view. So that's another Zoom tip. All right. All right, let's go on to, oh, I don't want to do that. Let's go on to the next one. All right, tip number 6 is something that we don't often think about, and that is you really do need to make sure you shut down your Chromebook at least weekly, if not every day, but weekly at least. A lot of people think shutting the lid does enough. It doesn't do enough. So you're going to want to make sure that you always in the Chromebook, go to that bottom right and make sure you shut her down at least every couple days or once a week. And what that does is it actually makes sure that the updates get set up. So a lot of times you'll see a whole bunch of a number here. That might mean that there's 3 updates to Chrome or other notifications. So make sure you shut it down at least by every week. And then the other thing is clearing the cache. And a lot of people are like, oh, do I really need to do that? Yeah, it's kind of important. If you feel like things are getting glitchy and there's weird things going on, you're going to go up into these 3 dots. You're going to go to more tools and you're going to clear browsing history. And you're really just going to go ahead and you can click all of them and do it for all time and clear data. And it will just clean up all the garbage that's on there that's been saved, so that you don't have to worry about it getting in the way, especially with Schoology, but with Google Classroom as well. All right, so that's clearing the cache, and it really does help, All right. And tip number 7 is really something that I'm sure that y'all are doing, but the idea that you really just need to reach out to your teachers. You either email them, and we talked about how to get to your email, private comment in Google Classroom on the assignments. There's a private comment there that you can click in there and say, I didn't understand, can you help me? Or message your teacher through Schoology. So all of these are really super great ways in order to reach out to your teachers. And it's so important because if you don't understand, they don't know you don't understand. It's really important to communicate that, okay? And bonus, and I'm gonna, again, this video is going to be in your counselor, this presentation is gonna be in your counselor Google Classroom, as well as we'll make sure a link is available. If you have not watched this Student Welcome to Google Classroom, it's kind of ways to be successful. This is going to be available to you. And I'm also working on getting a Schoology one. So if that's something that you think would be good, I'm working on getting one of those as well. And finally, and most importantly, don't hesitate to reach out for help. It's super important that you don't let it go. You both said you're doing really well, and that's super to hear. I'm really glad to hear that. But you want to make sure that you just continue to do well, and reach out. If you need the help, reach out. It's always important.